The alien woman sat alone at the edge of the busy space market. Her body was thin, her clothes torn, and her skin covered in layers of dirt. Around her, merchants shouted prices, children ran with laughter, and guards kept order. But wherever she went, people moved away, covering their noses and whispering. Her smell was strong, the kind that made others wrinkle their faces and step back. It was not her fault, but no one cared about the reason. To them she was only the cursed one, a reminder of misery and failure. Traders told new customers, "Stay far from her, she brings only bad luck." Children pointed at her and laughed, while their parents dragged them away quickly. She kept her head down, eyes hidden beneath tangled hair. Hunger burned in her stomach, but no one would sell her food. If she reached for scraps from the ground, someone always shouted, "Leave that filthy creature." So she curled her arms around herself and tried to disappear. The market was filled with lights, voices, and the smell of roasted meat. Every corner was alive, except the small space where she sat alone. Even the wind seemed to avoid her, carrying joy to others but leaving her in silence. For years she had been treated like a shadow, unwanted and unseen. Then, one day, a human traveler walked into the market. He wore a simple jacket, his boots dusty from long journeys. Unlike the others, he did not walk past her. He stopped, noticing how everyone turned their heads away from the corner. Curiosity pulled him closer, his eyes narrowing as he saw her trembling figure. The human did not step back when the smell reached him. Instead, he tilted his head, wondering why someone was left to suffer like this. Others noticed his interest and rushed to warn him. "Stay away, traveler. She will ruin your trade. She is cursed," they shouted. But he did not move, his boots steady on the ground. He saw how thin her arms were, how her lips were dry from thirst. He saw not a monster, but a woman who had been broken by the cruelty of others. The alien woman looked up slowly, expecting another insult. Her eyes were tired, yet inside them was a spark of fear and longing. No one had looked at her with kindness for many years. She whispered, "Go away, I will only bring you trouble." The human crouched down, ignoring the gasps of the crowd. He placed a small packet of food on the ground near her. The smell of bread reached her nose, and her stomach growled loudly. She stared at the food, then at the human, not trusting what she saw. "Why?" she whispered, her voice almost broken. He answered softly, "Because you are hungry." The market grew quiet, people watching in disbelief. Some muttered that the human was foolish, others shook their heads. But he did not care, he only watched the woman. Her hands shook as she reached slowly for the bread. When her fingers touched it, tears filled her eyes. She took the smallest bite, afraid it would be taken away. For the first time in years, she felt the taste of kindness. The human's eyes stayed on her, calm and gentle. He asked her name, but she shook her head. Perhaps she had forgotten it, or perhaps it was buried with her past. The crowd began to scatter, bored that the human did not fear her. Still, whispers followed them. "He will regret it. No one can help her." But the human stayed near, his thoughts deep. He did not see a curse, he saw a mystery. And mysteries always carried truth hidden inside. As the alien woman ate quietly, hope flickered for the first time in her heart. She dared to wonder if maybe, just maybe, one soul in this universe would not turn away. The human traveler stood quietly in the market, his eyes fixed on the alien woman. Around him, the crowd buzzed with nervous whispers, some laughing, some angry, some simply afraid. They warned him again, "Do not touch her, do not help her, she will bring disaster." But he did not listen, his heart was stronger than their fear. The alien woman sat frozen, still clutching the bread he had given her. Her hands shook with every bite, as if she believed someone would snatch it away. She looked at him with wide, doubtful eyes, expecting cruelty to follow the kindness. For in her life, kindness was always a trick, always a lie that ended in pain. The human crouched lower, his voice soft but firm. "You do not need to sit here alone," he said. "Come with me." Her head snapped up, disbelief flashing across her face. She whispered, "You do not know what I am. No one wants me near. You should leave me." The people around them scoffed, their voices sharp. "She is cursed." One merchant spat. "She will rot your ship. She will poison your trade." Another shouted, "Human, do not waste your pity. She is less than nothing. The guards stepped closer, ready to chase her away as they always did. But the human stood tall, facing them without fear. She is not cursed, he said, his voice carrying across the stalls. She is alive, and that is reason enough. The words silenced the crowd for a moment, their shock clear in their eyes. The alien woman could not move. Her heart pounded like drums in her chest. No one had ever spoken for her. No one had ever defended her against the crowd. For years she had been treated like filth. Yet here was a stranger breaking every rule. Tears burned in her eyes, and she whispered, "Why are you doing this?" The human offered his hand, palm open, patient and steady. She stared at it, the choice heavy on her soul. If she took it, she would walk into the unknown, perhaps into more pain. If she refused, she would remain in the dirt, forgotten and alone. Her fingers twitched, but fear held her back. She pulled her knees close and whispered, "I will only cause you trouble." The human did not withdraw his hand. He only said, "Then I will face that trouble with you." The crowd gasped again, some angry now, some mocking, but others watched in silence. At last, with trembling fingers, she touched his hand. It was warm, steady, unlike anything she had felt in years. The human gently pulled her to her feet. Her legs were weak, her body shaking, but he supported her without complaint. As they began to walk, voices rose around them. "She will ruin you," shouted a traitor. "She will curse your ship," another cried. But the human kept walking, ignoring them all. The alien woman stumbled beside him, every step uncertain. Her mind screamed to run away, yet her heart whispered to stay. They reached the edge of the market, where the lights were dimmer and the noise faded. She stopped, pulling her hand back. "You cannot save me," she said, her voice raw. The human turned to her, his eyes calm but unyielding. "Maybe not," he admitted, "but I can try, and that is more than anyone else has done." Her breath caught, her throat tight with emotions she had long forgotten. No one had ever said such words to her, not since she had been abandoned. The human motioned to his small ship parked nearby. It was old, patched with repairs, but it was safe. "Come," he said. "You need rest, you need water, you need to remember what it means to live." She hesitated, torn between fear and hope. The smell of metal and fuel from his ship mixed with the taste of bread still on her tongue. Her body longed for safety, but her mind whispered that safety did not exist. Still, his hand was there again, steady, waiting, and in that moment, she made a choice. She stepped forward, her bare feet scraping against the ground. The market behind her erupted in angry voices, but she did not look back. For the first time in years, she walked toward something instead of away. And beside her, the human walked without hesitation, his shadow covering her like a shield. The ship door hissed open with a slow groan, the old hinges creaking as the human guided the alien woman inside. She hesitated at the threshold, her bare feet pressing against the cold metal floor. The smell of oil and steel filled the air, but to her, it was cleaner than anything she had known for years. The human gave her a reassuring nod, and she stepped inside, clutching her arms close to her chest. The ship was small, patched with repairs, but it had warmth, it had life, it had safety. She looked around with wide eyes, her heart beating fast, unsure if she belonged here. The human walked calmly to a small storage unit, pulling out a clear bottle of water. He handed it to her, his hand steady, his eyes kind. She took it slowly, as if it were treasure, and pressed the bottle to her lips. The cool water slid down her dry throat, and for a moment she closed her eyes, almost crying at the taste. The human spoke gently, "Drink as much as you want." She lowered the bottle, staring at him with disbelief. No one had ever told her to take as much as she wanted. No one had ever cared if she was thirsty. Her voice shook. "Why are you doing this?" He answered simply, "Because no one else would." Her body trembled as she sank onto a seat near the corner. Her eyes scanned the walls of the ship, the blinking lights, the quiet hum of the engine. Everything felt unreal, like a dream she might wake from at any moment. The human moved to another locker, pulling out a blanket, soft and clean. He draped it over her shoulders, and she flinched at the touch, and used to warmth, and used to comfort. Yet she held it close, breathing in the scent of cloth that did not smell of dirt. For a while they sat in silence. The the human letting her rest, the alien trying to believe this was real. Her eyes drifted toward him, and she whispered, "No one has touched me for so long." Her words carried pain, years of loneliness wrapped in every syllable. The human's jaw tightened, anger flashing for a second, not at her, but at the world that had done this. "You are safe here," he said, his voice steady. "No one will push you away again." The alien woman hugged the blanket tighter, her tears falling softly onto the fabric. She whispered again, as if confessing, "I smell. I ruin everything. That is why they hate me." The human looked at her carefully, then shook his head. "No, they hate because it is easy. They hate because they are afraid. But smell can be washed away. Fear can be broken." She stared at him, her lips parting in shock. No one had ever said such words. The human stood, moving toward the back of the ship, and motioned for her to follow. Her legs were weak, but she pushed herself up, curiosity guiding her steps. He opened another door, and steam drifted from inside. It was a small shower unit, the walls worn but clean, the sound of water dripping faintly inside. Her breath caught, her body frozen. A shower, she thought, a place to wash away years of dirt and shame. She shook her head, panic flashing in her eyes. "I cannot. I will break it. I will make everything worse," she whispered. The human stepped closer, his voice calm. "You will not break it. You deserve this." She stared at him, her heart torn between fear and hope. Her lips trembled. What if I am still hated after?" The human crouched slightly, his eyes locking onto hers. "Then we will face it together," he said. "But you will not be alone." Her chest tightened, her tears falling freely now. Her hands shook as she touched the doorway, the steam warming her skin. Slowly, step by step, she walked into the shower room. The human waited outside, giving her space, but leaving the door unlocked in case she needed him. Inside, she pressed her hands against the wall, her body shaking. The water hissed to life, splashing against her skin, washing away years of filth. She gasped, the sensation too much, too sharp, yet too beautiful. Dirt slid from her arms, her face, her tangled hair, flowing down the drain. She touched her skin in disbelief, seeing glimpses of color, of beauty hidden for so long. Her reflection in the small mirror shocked her, as if a stranger was staring back. The alien woman cried quietly, the sound of water hiding her sobs. Not of pain, but of release, of something breaking free inside her. For the first time in years, she felt clean, she felt alive. Outside, the human waited, hearing the water, hearing her quiet voice whispering to herself. He smiled softly, knowing this was only the beginning. When she finally stepped out, wrapped in the blanket once more, her eyes were red but brighter. The human met her gaze, his smile gentle. "You see," he said, "the world has not ended." She whispered, her voice still shaking, "It feels like I am alive again." The ship was quiet after the shower. Only the steady hum of the engine filled the air. The alien woman sat on the seat again, wrapped in the blanket, her hair dripping clean water onto the floor. For the first time, her skin was visible, pale but glowing faintly under the lights. Her eyes, once hidden behind dirt and despair, now shone like stars reflecting sorrow and hope. The human watched her closely, not with pity but with calm respect. He handed her a small towel, and she took it slowly, pressing it to her face. Her hands trembled as she wiped her skin, staring at the faint color returning to her body. The years of filth had hidden her true form, and now, little by little, it was breaking free. She whispered softly, "I do not recognize this face." Her reflection in the mirror above the console showed someone new, someone fragile but alive. The human stood beside her, his voice firm but kind. "This is you," he said, "the one the world tried to bury but could not destroy." Her chest tightened, her tears spilling again, though this time they were different, lighter. The human turned toward the small cooking station in the corner of the ship. He began preparing something warm, a simple stew from dried packs, but the smell filled the cabin. She closed her eyes, breathing it in, her stomach growling again. For so long she had been rejected from food stalls, shoved away from scraps. Now someone was cooking for her, and the feeling was so strange, so powerful. As he stirred the pot, he spoke over his shoulder. You have been alone too long, he said. But no one deserves to live like that. She hugged the blanket closer, her voice breaking. I was not always this way, she confessed. I had a home once, I had family. But they left me, they said I was unclean, they said I was shame. Her words cracked like glass, sharp and fragile. The human did not push her for more, he only listened, the sound of stew bubbling filling the silence. When the food was ready, he placed the bowl in front of her. Her hands shook as she lifted the spoon, tasting the warm broth. It was simple, but to her it was a feast, a memory of life returning. She whispered, I thought I would never eat like this again. The human nodded, replying softly, You will eat like this every day now. She looked at him sharply, disbelief flashing in her eyes. Her voice was thin. You cannot mean that. No one keeps promises to me. But the human's gaze was steady, his words clear. Then let me be the first, he said. Let me prove it. The ship lights flickered for a moment as the engine adjusted power. She glanced nervously at the door, afraid the crowd would break in, afraid the market would steal this safety away. The human noticed her fear and shook his head. They will not touch you here, he said. This ship is yours as much as it is mine. Her breath caught, the words echoing in her heart, a place that had been empty for so long. She finished the stew slowly, each spoonful warming her body. Her shoulders relaxed, her eyes softer now. The human sat across from her, arms folded, watching quietly. Finally, she whispered, I do not know who I am anymore. He leaned forward, his voice steady. Then we will find out together. The words wrapped around her like a shield, stronger than the blanket, stronger than the food. For years she had been nothing but the cursed one. Now someone was telling her she was more. She pressed her hands to her face, sobbing quietly. The human did not stop her tears. He let them fall, for they were not weakness but healing. As the hours passed, the alien woman cleaned her hands again and again, touching her face, her hair, her skin. Every time she looked in the mirror, she saw less of the shadow and more of herself. Her heart began to whisper a dangerous word, a word she had not dared to feel. Hope. And though fear still clung to her, it was not strong enough to crush the spark that had been lit. The human stood finally, moving to adjust the controls of the ship. We should leave the market soon, he said. They will not forgive what I did today. Her body stiffened, fear rushing back into her chest. They will punish you because of me, she whispered. But he turned, giving her a half-smile. Let them try, he said. I have made my choice. She stared at him, her heart racing. No one had ever chosen her. No one had ever fought for her. In that moment, she realized the transformation was not only of her body, but of her life. She was no longer only the outcast of the market. She was someone worth saving, someone worth standing beside. The next morning, the alien woman woke to the quiet hum of the ship. She sat up slowly, the blanket still wrapped around her, her hair now dry and soft against her shoulders. For a moment, she forgot the years of misery and only felt the warmth of safety. But when she looked at the human preparing supplies near the control panel, the memories came back. She whispered, They will come for me, her voice heavy with dread. The human turned, shaking his head firmly. Then let them, they will not take you. Her heart struggled to believe, yet something inside her longed to trust him. He handed her a small pack of fruit, dried and sweet, and she ate slowly, savoring every bite. Every taste reminded her that she was alive, that someone cared. As she ate, she glanced around the ship again, noticing how tidy it was, how much care he put into every detail. Her voice was soft, almost shy. You live alone. He nodded, replying, I travel alone, but perhaps not anymore. Her cheeks warmed at the words, though she quickly looked away. It had been so long since anyone had spoken of her as part of something. She stood and began to help without being asked, gathering the empty bottles, wiping the table with a cloth. The human watched silently, a small smile touching his lips. She wanted to do more, to show she was not useless, that she could belong. When the human stepped outside to check the fuel cells, whispers reached them from the market square. Voices carried across the air, sharp with suspicion. They say the human took her in, one merchant hissed. He brought the cursed one onto his ship, another spat. Fool, he will destroy himself, and us with him, said a third. The alien woman froze, her body shaking as the old fear returned. Her hands tightened on the blanket, and she whispered, "They hate me still. Nothing has changed." The human stepped back inside, his eyes calm, his voice steady. "They fear what they do not understand," he said. "Fear makes them cruel." She looked at him, her tears threatening to fall. "But they will turn on you because of me," he answered firmly. "Let them. I do not live for their judgment. I live for what is right." She pressed her hands to her face, trembling. No one had ever defended her. No one had ever chosen her over the crowd. Her voice cracked as she whispered, "I do not know how to be part of anything anymore." The human sat across from her, leaning forward. "Then learn with me, day by day." As the hours passed, she began to laugh, quietly at first, then with growing strength. The sound startled her, for it had been years since laughter escaped her lips. The human chuckled softly with her, saying nothing, just letting her laughter fill the space. She touched her chest, whispering, "I did not know I still had this inside me." But beyond the ship, the market was not laughing. Rumors spread quickly, faster than fire through dry grass. Some said she was a danger to the trade routes. Others claimed she carried sickness. A group of angry merchants gathered near the docking bay, their eyes filled with suspicion. They muttered that the human had brought a curse upon them all. One of them swore, "We cannot let him leave with her. We must stop this." Inside the ship, the alien woman felt the tension in the air, though no one had yet approached. Her instincts told her the storm was coming, her heart pounding with the weight of fear. She whispered, "They will drive you away. They will force me back into the dirt." The human reached out, his hand steady as he placed it over hers. "No," he said, his voice unshaken. "We face them together. No more running, no more hiding." Her breath caught at his words, her tears falling silently. She wanted to believe, she wanted to trust, but the years of rejection fought against the hope in her heart. Yet when she looked into his eyes, she saw no doubt, only certainty. And for the first time, she let herself lean on that certainty, even if it was fragile. She whispered, "If they come, they will hurt you." He shook his head. "They will try, but I will not give you back to them." Her chest ached with the weight of gratitude and fear. She whispered again, "Why me?" The human smiled faintly. "Because you deserve more than what they gave you." As night fell, the market grew restless, voices carried in the dark. But inside the ship, the alien woman sat beside the human, her heart torn between terror and hope. She did not know what the morning would bring, but she knew one thing clearly. She was no longer alone. The morning sun rose over the market, casting long shadows across the docking bay. The human stood outside his ship, adjusting the final checks on the panels, his face calm. But he knew the crowd would come. He could feel the weight of their anger in the air. Inside the ship, the alien woman sat near the window, clutching the blanket tight, her eyes filled with fear. She whispered to herself, "They will come today." Her heart pounded as footsteps echoed in the distance, louder with each moment. Soon, a group of merchants appeared, their faces twisted with suspicion and hate. Some carried tools in their hands. Others held nothing but anger. One stepped forward, shouting, "Human, you cannot take her. She is cursed. She will destroy us all." The human straightened, his boots planted firmly on the ground. "She is no curse," he said, his voice carrying across the bay. "She is alive, and she deserves more than your cruelty." The crowd jeered, voices rising in protest. "She will bring sickness," one spat. "She will ruin our trade. She will drive customers away." Inside the ship, the alien woman trembled, tears filling her eyes. She pressed her hand to the glass, whispering, "He is fighting for me." Her heart ached with fear that they would harm him because of her. For a moment she considered running, stepping out and giving herself up, but her body would not move. She could not betray the one who had given her kindness. The merchants closed in, their leader pointing an accusing finger. "Give her back to the dirt where she belongs, or you will not leave this place alive." The human did not flinch, his eyes narrowed, his voice steady. "You may hate her, but I will not. You may fear her, but I will not." He stepped forward, placing himself between them and the ship. "If you want her, you will have to go through me." The crowd murmured, some surprised at his defiance, others furious. The alien woman gasped, her body shaking with both terror and awe. Never had anyone stood for her like this. Never had anyone risked themselves for her. She pressed her forehead against the glass, whispering, "Please do not hurt him." The merchants growled, their anger boiling. But among them, a few hesitated, their eyes drifting toward the ship. They had seen the change in her face, the glow in her skin after the dirt was washed away. She no longer looked like a monster. She looked like someone alive, someone fragile, someone real. One of them muttered, "She looks different." Another whispered, "Maybe she is not cursed after all." The leader snarled, "Do not be fooled. Filth is still filth." He stepped closer, his hand tightening on a heavy wrench. The human stood taller, his voice like steel. "She is not filth, she is family," he declared. The words struck the crowd like thunder, silence spreading for a heartbeat. Inside the ship, the alien woman gasped, her tears spilling freely. "Family," she thought, the word echoing in her heart. Her hands pressed against the glass, her body trembling with emotion. She had not belonged to anyone for so long, and now he had claimed her as family. The merchants shifted uneasily, their anger fighting against doubt. Some lowered their eyes, unable to meet the human's steady gaze. The leader hissed, "You are a fool, human. She will betray you. She will ruin you." But the human shook his head, his voice firm. "No, it is you who ruin yourselves with hatred. It is you who fear what you do not understand." The crowd wavered, their unity breaking. Some turned away, muttering under their breath, unwilling to challenge him further. Others remained, still glaring, but uncertain. The leader spat on the ground, pointing his wrench. "This is not over, human. We will remember this." Then he stormed away, his followers scattering like shadows in the morning light. The human exhaled slowly, his shoulders relaxing at last. He turned and stepped back into the ship, where the alien woman rushed forward, her eyes wide, her body trembling. "They will come again," she whispered. He placed his hands gently on her shoulders, his voice calm. "Then we will face them again, together." Her heart broke with gratitude, her tears falling against his chest. She whispered, "I am nothing, and you still protect me." He shook his head, lifting her chin so she could meet his eyes. "You are not nothing," he said. "You are someone worth standing for." The alien woman sobbed softly, her hands clutching his jacket. In that moment, something shifted deep inside her. She no longer saw herself as the cursed one, no longer saw herself as the dirt of the market. She was not alone anymore, and she was not worthless. The human had chosen her, and that choice changed everything. The docking bay was quiet after the crowd left, the echo of angry voices fading into silence. The human stood beside the alien woman, his hand resting gently on her shoulder. Her tears slowed, replaced with a trembling breath, a spark of hope flickering in her chest. For the first time in years, she was not standing alone against the world. She was not invisible. Days passed, and slowly the market began to watch them from a distance. The merchants who had once spit at her now lingered, whispering but not daring to act. Some saw her face in the light, clean and alive, and felt uneasy about their judgment. Children peeked curiously at the ship, their laughter softer, less cruel than before. One child even waved at her through the docking bay railings, and she froze, unsure how to react. Her lips trembled as she raised her hand in return, the smallest of smiles appearing. Inside the ship, she began to change more. She helped the human clean the tools, sort supplies, and cook meals. Each small act reminded her that she could still give something. She could still matter. The human never forced her, never demanded. He only welcomed her efforts with a nod or a smile. Her heart grew lighter with every passing day, though fear still whispered in the back of her mind. But whispers in the market also began to shift. "She looks different," some said. "She is not cursed. She is only like us." Others muttered, "Maybe the human was right. Maybe we were wrong to cast her away." Not all agreed, for some still clung to hatred, but cracks were forming in the wall of cruelty. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, the human invited her to sit outside the ship. They sat together on the docking ramp, watching the stars blink awake in the sky. Her voice was quiet, filled with wonder. "I never thought I would see them like this, not with peace in my heart." The human looked at her with a faint smile. "You were meant to see them. You were meant to live, not just survive. Her chest tightened, her eyes burning with tears she could no longer hold. You gave me back my life, she whispered. You gave me back myself. The human shook his head gently. No, you always had a life inside you. I only reminded you it was still there. Her tears fell freely, and she leaned against his shoulder, trembling with gratitude. The next day, something remarkable happened. A merchant approached the ship, not with anger, but with a cautious offering. It was a small loaf of bread, wrapped in cloth. He placed it near the ramp and said quietly, "No one should starve, not even her." The alien woman stared at the bread, her heart pounding. She looked at the human, who nodded softly, and then she picked it up with trembling hands. Her eyes filled with tears, for it was the first gift she had received in years. Over time, more began to soften. Children laughed near her without fear. Women offered scraps of cloth. Men asked for small help with trade. Every act, no matter how small, broke the chains of the curse they had tied around her name. She no longer walked with her head down. She no longer hid in shadows. Her eyes lifted toward the world, her heart daring to believe in belonging. One evening, as she prepared a meal with the human, she stopped and placed her hand over his. Her voice was shaky but strong. "I am not cursed anymore." He looked at her, his eyes steady, and said, "You never were." She broke into quiet sobs, relief flooding her body. In that moment, she knew she had been given more than kindness. She had been given family. The market that once shunned her now watched her walk without fear. And though not all accepted her, it no longer mattered. For she had a place to return to, a home that would not turn her away. The human had stood for her when no one else would, and that choice had changed everything. As the stars lit the sky above, she whispered, "You gave me back my life, but more than that, you gave me a home." The human smiled softly, his voice warm. "No, we gave each other a home." And with that, the outcast who had once been rejected by all finally found what she had lost long ago. She found love, she found dignity, and above all, she found family.